We are Emily and Justin Baldoni. We are parents of a 6-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. We recently moved to Ojai, California, really enjoying that kind of change of pace and lifestyle.
How long have you guys been married?
8 years.
We're in our 9th year of marriage.
We recently celebrated 8.
Yeah.
July 27th. Yeah.
It feels like our
8
first.
years. And somehow it does feel like we're turning a corner where there's something like we're doing so much work on ourselves and on our marriage that it feels like a new beginning that we're stepping into right now, which is incredibly sweet. And I think it's important to talk about because that's 8 years in.
That's 8 years.
That's 8 years. And it's not that it hasn't been great for those 8 years, but it's also been really, really challenging and difficult. And that work that you put in, it pays off.
It's amazing to still have that glow, and to look back and know that you're just deepening the connection and that every day is a new day.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't glow at all, right?
Yes.
Like there is very little glow on some days. And that also has to be okay because that's part of the process.
I think you're still glowing when you do that.
That's very sweet. But the
lack of the glow adds to the glow.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're glowing right now because we both didn't sleep that well.
We camped out.
Check this out.
So we have very little furniture in our house still.
So my gosh, I love it.
Kids wanted to camp. I bought that tent so we could all camp together outside. And then when I set it up, they wanted to sleep inside. We had to do that out last night. We're still glowing.
The deprivation of being a parent definitely rub some glow off for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm super relating to that right now. I won't lie. We've hired a sleep consultant because I need it so bad.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I had 8 hours straight.
Oh,
I feel you.
Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
Oh, something I've been really curious about. Okay, so Justin, you are an American, correct?
I am an American.
Sorry. And correct me anything I'm wrong here. Okay, so you're an American. Are you Italian American?
I'm Italian Jewish American. Yeah. Yeah. My dad's Italian. My mom is Jewish.
And Emily, you're from Sweden, correct?
I'm from Sweden.
Okay.
I'm very, very Swedish. 100% Swedish.
That's the first time you said that. You normally say you're also part Mongolian.
Because I am. My grandmother's grandmother came from Mongolia. So there's a little bit of mix in there. And I became an American. In, I think, 2017. Same year that we had Maxwell. So now I have dual citizenship. Yeah. It's just nice to be able to vote and actually citizen, and have a say in things. I think that's what I fought it for a long time too. And I was like, I'm raising children here.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to, I want my voice to be heard.
In the Baha'i faith, we consider the institution of marriage to be a fortress for well-being. So I've been curious to know, what advice do you have to share regarding being in intercultural marriage?
Intercultural. That's good.
That's a good question regarding the fortress for well-being.
Well, I think a fortress, what I love about Baha'u'llah's metaphor is that a fortress has to be constructed from the inside. So it's the people that are in the fortress, right? You're building the fortress as you're in it. I think one of the foundational building blocks of that fortress would be curiosity and understanding. And that curiosity is okay, if you're in an intercultural marriage like we are, it's learning about the culture, because chances are that culture, that socialization, both positively and negatively affected your partner. You can't expect that you're just going to see things the same way or handle things the same way, because socialization impacts the way that we see the world, right? You put on rose-colored glasses, then everything looks rose. You put on dark shades, then everything seems dark. And a lot of that is based on how you were raised and where you were raised. So I tried to really learn and understand the Swedish culture. I've also been very tested by the Swedish culture.
Oh, yes, you have.
It's just very different from the culture that I grew up in, which is really specific to my family also. There's also family dynamics as well. It's not just cultural. So I think that's a huge part of building a fortress, is being curious, being like, okay, why are you reacting that way? Why is there so much emphasis on that thing? And trying to understand instead of just simply rejecting it because it's different than your views.
And when you have that understanding too, you know, whenever we disagree on things, which happens a lot, we can understand why we are so different. And when that understanding is there, then you're kind of in a different playground. Like you know what you're dealing with, and that it's not just that, you know, it's harder for me to be frustrated with his ways if I see where they come from in his parents, in his culture, in the American society that he grew up in. It's easier for me then to understand also why it triggers me and my super Swedish ways and the fact that they oppose each other. And when we stand in that understanding, it's like, okay, that's what we're dealing with. So we don't have to blame each other. There's something bigger here that we're dealing with. And then you work around it, or you work through it and you figure it out. But I think I love that you call it curiosity too. So that it's not just understanding, but actually being curious about
But the
where
difference
your
is,
partner comes from.
the differences also can become strengths, because
Yes.
like many compounds, like structurally, they're very different, but when they come together, they form something that's an entirely new substance, right? Like cement, for example. You know, you have concrete, you pour two different compounds together and mix them up, and you have something extremely strong. And I think that's what marriage is.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the opposites being supportive. Because I was thinking, as you both were sharing, you both remind me of Robert and myself in certain ways. Like Robert, I would say, is more like Emily, and I'm more like Justin. Just because I'm more outgoing. Obviously, I'm an American. I'm also Jewish, half Jewish. And so, you know, and then Robert being British, his mother English, his father Scottish. It's just, he's much more reserved than I am. And so we've often had these same kind of like bumping up against each other. But what I have found is exactly, you're right, like through talking things out, through trying to understand where each other are coming from, assuming the best of each other as well. It's like from that, we've become stronger. And like gaining stronger insights that maybe if I'd married another American, I would not have.